So this guy is a liar. The guy's name is Jesse, and he is 26 years old when the story starts. He is living in New Zealand, and Jesse has a serious problem with lying. He is always making things up about his life. He tells people that he is a high-level manager at an oil company. He tells people that he owns a house worth over $1 million and a luxury BMW. He even tells people that he is a professional softball player for the New Zealand Black Sox. In reality, all of that is complete nonsense. He is essentially a person who cannot hold down a job, and he is likely living on government assistance. One day in 2018, Jesse makes a choice that ruins his entire life. He gets on Tinder because he is looking for someone to spend time with. And that is when he lands on the profile of a woman named Grace. Grace is 21 years old, and she is a genuinely nice person. For the last year, she has been backpacking around the world and visiting a ton of different countries. Her latest stop is New Zealand, so Grace is staying in a local hostel. Like any traveler in a new place, she is trying to meet people, so she gets on Tinder and starts swiping. That is when she matches with Jesse. They start chatting, and they seem to hit it off, so they decide to meet up for drinks. The next day, they meet in person. There is security footage of them actually meeting up, and they go to a bar to get some drinks and food. The date seems to be going well, so they decide to keep the party going and go bar hopping. They hit up a few other bars, and they are having what appears to be a good time. Of course, because Jesse is Jesse, he is lying the entire time. He tells her he is a successful businessman. He tells her he is related to a famous rugby player. And he says he is planning to visit England, which is where Grace is from. Grace, of course, has no idea that this dude is a total liar. To her, he seems cool, mature, and like he has a lot going on. In fact, when Jessie goes to the bathroom, she even texts her friend to say how she is on a date with this big oil executive and how he is going to come to England the following year. She feels impressed by him, and she believes everything he is saying. The date continues, and after several hours of hanging out and going to different bars, they decide to go back to Jessie's place. Here is where things go completely out of control. At Jessie's apartment, seemingly out of nowhere, he turns on her. He starts strangling her, and he strangles her until she unfortunately dies. We do not exactly know why he did it, because he was the only person with her, and there are no other witnesses. Plus, because he is a habitual liar, it is hard to believe anything he says about the situation. Anyway, after murdering Grace, Jesse is still at home, and he does not really seem fazed by what just happened. Her body is still in his apartment, and while the body is sitting there, he looks up some adult websites and gets back on Tinder. He starts swiping again, and he actually matches with another woman and makes arrangements to go on a date with her. Then, he starts searching online for ways to potentially clean up and get rid of the body that is still at his place. The next morning, Jesse goes to the store and buys a suitcase. Then, he goes to another store and buys some cleaning products, and he even rents a machine to clean the carpet. During this time, Grace's phone, which is still at Jesse's apartment, is blowing up with happy birthday messages for her. It just so happens to be Grace's 22nd birthday. And of course, all those texts are going unanswered. And all those calls are going straight to voicemail. Everyone who cares about her is trying to reach her, but they are met with complete silence. After shopping, Jesse goes back to his apartment, drops off all the cleaning stuff, and cramps Grace's body into the suitcase. Then he leaves it there and goes out on the other Tinder date that he had scheduled the night before. On this second date, Jesse is of course lying to this new woman too. He tells her that he is a sales manager at a store in Australia, and he makes up a story about how his best friend is coming over from Sydney to be a Crown prosecutor. But here is where the conversation gets weird. This Tinder date tells Jesse how she once attended a trial in person, and it was a trial about a guy who was being put away for murder. And she mentions how the whole thing was really sad. Jesse tells her that he once knew a guy who had a physical encounter with his girlfriend that went wrong involving strangulation, and that the girl died. He tells her the guy he knew went to prison for manslaughter, which is a really weird and disturbing story to tell on a date. I do not know how the woman reacted, but he keeps going. He tells her how police dogs only have the ability to smell bodies buried less than 4 feet underground. So police are missing a lot of bodies that are buried deeper than that. At this point, they are about 90 minutes into this date, and this woman is really not feeling all this talk about dead bodies, so she decides to politely end the date, and she makes an excuse to leave. Jesse offers her a ride home, but she refuses. So Jesse goes back to his apartment, where the body is still there, crammed into that suitcase. He spends several hours trying to clean up the crime scene, with all the supplies he bought mostly focusing on the carpet. After that, he goes downstairs to look for a luggage cart, like the kind you would get at a hotel. He finds one and brings it up to his room, where he loads the suitcase with the body inside. Then he wheels the luggage cart through the building outside and loads the suitcase into a car he rented. He drives out to a remote area and buries the body. Meanwhile, Grace's parents start to realize they have not heard from her in a while, which is weird, because she is normally posting to her social media a lot and sending photos of her backpacking trip to her family and friends. Now, she is not even responding to her birthday messages, which is just completely out of character. They get in touch with local police in New Zealand, and the police agree to go to the hostel where Grace is staying to do a welfare check. Well, the police get there, and Grace isn't at the hostel, but all her stuff is still there. The police start investigating, and almost immediately they start looking at her social media for clues, because they know she posts there a lot. That is when they see a comment on her Facebook page from a guy named Jesse. In fact, this Jesse guy was the last person to comment on her page right before she went out on a date with him. The police reach out to Jesse through Facebook, and he agrees to meet with them for questioning. He meets with them and tells them that he had gone on a date with Grace, but that they had parted ways early in the evening. He claims he said, "I know it's quick, but do you want to catch up for a drink?" And she said, "Yep, cool." But the police find security footage of Jesse and Grace coming into his building at 9:41 p.m., so they know he is lying. They search his rental car and his apartment, and even though he tried to clean everything up, the police find Grace's DNA and other forensic evidence. Bam Jesse is arrested. He goes to trial, he is found guilty, and he gets sentenced to life in prison with a minimum of 17 years. The whole ordeal leaves everyone looking for answers, but the truth is often buried under the lies people tell themselves to feel important. Grace was a young woman who was supposed to be seeing the world, but her journey was cut short by a man who lived his entire life in a fantasy. The people who knew her were left to wonder why someone who seemed so normal could be so cruel. When you look at the timeline of those few days, it is chilling to think about how Jesse was moving from one task to the next, cleaning the carpet, buying the suitcase, even going on a date, while Grace was no longer there. It shows how disconnected he was from the reality of what he had done.